What to do when a real estate deal goes south is today's topic on the podcast. And if you're not familiar with me, my name is Greg Helbeck. Thank you for watching either my YouTube channel or my audio podcast. Looking forward to talking about today's topic because boy, has it happened to me many, many times, and it seems like it just continues to happen. So I've been a full-time entrepreneur now for almost 10 years. I've done almost 250 properties. So I got a lot of experience with deals going up and down and this, that, and the other. So if you get value today, if you could do me a favor, if you can share the show, or if you're watching this on YouTube, if you could like the video and subscribe to my channel would really mean a lot to me. So what do you do when a deal goes south, right? We put a lot of work into getting leads. We put a lot of work into making offers and getting contracts signed and dealing with attorneys if you're in New York or New Jersey. And sometimes you put these deals together and all of a sudden the deals go south. Sellers change their mind, buyers bail on you, there's a title issue. There's so many reasons a deal could go south. And, if you're a new investor, or even if you're experienced, you're spending the money in your head before it actually hits your bank account. And it can cause a lot of chaos if you don't understand how to handle dealing with a real estate deal going south. So first of all, you have to isolate the issue. That's step number one. When I say a deal, I'm talking about you have a seller who's agreeing to sell you a property for a certain price, and you have a buyer who's willing to buy a property from you for a certain price, and you're in the middle, whether you're wholesaling it or you could be a rehabber and you're in the middle too. So first things first is you got to figure out the issue. Is it a seller issue / buyer issue? Is it a title issue? Is it a building department issue? You got to isolate the issue. Now, if it's a seller issue, is a seller changing their mind, right? This happens, unfortunately, a lot in the business. So let's say you have a house, it's under contract, you found a buyer, you're making a $30,000 wholesale fee or something like that, which is awesome. And the seller calls you and says, hey, I don't want to sell my house anymore. Cancel the contract. Now, that can get a little dicey. So you got to make a judgment call at that point. Why are they canceling the contract? That's the first thing. Why do they want to cancel the contract? And usually there's a few things. I don't want to sell anymore. I changed my mind. I got a higher offer. So you got to hear the seller out. 9 out of 10 times, they probably got a higher offer and then they don't want to sell to you because someone else is willing to pay more. And in that case, I'm not giving you legal advice, but if it was me, I'd pursue the contract legally, file as pendants. Don't take this as legal advice. That's what I usually do if they're trying to get out of my contract because they have a higher offer. Now, let's say that they don't want to sell anymore. I had this happen to me this year. I actually got deceived by the seller. Seller said they don't want to sell anymore. They were living there. They were old. And I was like, okay, that's no problem. I'm not going to force you out of your house. No big deal. And turns out the seller sold to someone else for less money. She was lying to me the entire time. So that one sucked. Couldn't really do anything after it closed. So you got to really isolate the situation. Now let's talk about the other side of the spectrum. Let's say the buyer starts to bail, right? Whether it's a retail buyer or whether it's a cash buyer if you're wholesaling it. Now you got to figure out, why is the buyer bailing? Did they offer you too much money? Do they just want to get you in contract and quote unquote get a deal, and then they realize they're overpaying and they want to cancel? There's so many things that can happen on a real estate transaction before it closes. So you got to get in touch with the buyer and say, hey, how come you're bailing? What's the issue? I thought we had a deal. There was multiple offers here. I selected your offer. Now, if that's me, I'm telling the buyer, if you don't want to close, that's fine. I'm keeping your deposit, right? Assuming I can legally do that. Because if you're selling properties and you're dealing with cash buyers or retail buyers, you should take a decent deposit down, because in the event that they don't close and there's no title issues, you can keep that deposit. And then at least you get some money in your pocket and you can go resell it to someone else. So I like to tell them, hey, listen, if you're going to bail, there's clean title here. Your $10,000 deposit check is literally going into my pocket. And usually tell them that, and they're like, oh, well, that's true. All right, I'll just close. So you got to really figure out the issue with the sellers and with the buyers. Now let's talk about title issues. And I've made other videos on title issues before, but let's say you have a property, and I actually have this going on right now. There's a title issue, and that's preventing the deal from closing. You got to isolate it. You got to figure out what's the problem. There's usually multiple things with title issues, but at least in the one that I'm doing right now, one person who's involved with the estate is refusing to sign paperwork for no legitimate reason, but driving everyone crazy. It's holding the deal up. To use this example, we have two options. We can sue the guy for tortious interference, most likely, which we might do, or we can just literally tell everyone, hey, this is going to take another couple months to get done. This guy's taking his sweet merry time, and that's the best we can do. So really isolate the issues when deals go south. Now, here's what you don't want to do when deals go south. You don't want to act like a maniac. Ask me how I know. I used to have deals go south, and I used to scream and yell and act like a maniac. And I don't do that anymore. Got to stay calm, and you got to get a lawyer involved, because then when your emotions get involved, then the buyer or the seller's emotions get involved, and it just turns into a giant pissing match. So do not do that. Be calm, cool and collected. As hard as it is to do, you got to do that because that's how you protect these deals. I actually had this happen on a house that we're closing tomorrow, and I could have freaked out and went nuts. I stayed calm, cool, and collected, filed a list pendants, and got the seller to comply. So by doing that, we saved a lot of drama, and thankfully that's going to save the deal. And it's going to close tomorrow and make around $60,000 of profit, so that ain't bad. So to summarize this whole video, number one, when deals go south, you got to figure out, is it a seller/buyer issue? Is it a title issue? Like, what's the actual issue and why it's going south? Lesson number two, don't freak out. Don't get emotionally involved, right? Just understand the situation, figure out the root cause, be calm, cool, and collected. And without giving you legal advice, I'd probably get an attorney involved when deals go south, because that's when people tend to listen up a little bit more when they get a letter from a lawyer or an email saying like, hey, we got to perform here. So it's going to happen. The more deals you do, the more deals are going to get squirrely. Don't count the money before it hits your bank account. Ask me how I know that one. And hopefully this was a helpful video, right? And if it was, do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video. And last but not least, if you live in Seattle, the Hudson Valley, Delaware, Reno, or San Diego, and if you have a house you want to wholesale me, send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com. Or if you're a wholesaler, you want to just JV with me and wholesale the deal together. I got really good buyers lists in those areas. Shoot me a message on Instagram @grego37, and I'll see you on the next REI weekly lesson. Take care.